Alright, today we're going to be making some cinnamon raisin bread. I've never made bread before. I do not have a bread machine, and I don't know if this recipe is going to be good. We're going to find out along the way. So here we go. Here's what we need. Yeast, milk, flour, sugar, butter, eggs, cinnamon, and raisins. I'm halving this recipe, so we're only going to need 1.5 eggs, and we're going to see how the best way to do that. We'll find out. No, I'm not even someone that considers themselves a breadhead, if you will. I don't really eat that much bread, and especially not cinnamon raisin, but I got the idea in my head, and it's all I've been thinking about since Thursday, so that's the reason that I'm making this. And right now I'm just waiting for my iPad to charge, since I've never made this recipe before. It's a little too hard to video this and then swap back to the recipe, so that's the reason why there's a long break if you're watching this live. Okay, and here's how I ended up doing 1.5 eggs. Okay, and then I'm just going to measure out 3/4 cup of raisins. I'm using a mixture of regular and gold because there's a shop near me that sells stuff like this in bulk for really cheap, but use whatever kind of raisins that you have. And then I'm just going to soak these in water for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, just gonna, however long. Okay, so now we're going to want to bring 3/4 cup of milk to a boil. You got to stir it because you don't want it to burn. Milk burns pretty easily. Yeah, so just stir it, and then once it gets up to a boil, you're going to just let it cool to, the recipe says to 115 degrees, which is basically just warm to the touch, and it wouldn't burn you, is basically what that means. Okay, now we're going to do the water and yeast, which involves yeast and water that's pretty warm, not hot that it would burn you, but warm enough that it would make the yeast activate. If you saw the pretzel episode, you already know how to do it. If you haven't, maybe you should watch it. Pretzels are really good. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so this is 1/2 cup of water, and then you're going to add the yeast, stir it, and then let it sit for 10 minutes, and just hope for the best. Hope that you chose the right temperature, and it'll be bubbly. That's how you'll know. Okay, so for this is working pretty well. We're going to add that yeast into a bowl. We're going to add the eggs in. This is all pre-measured, so that is something I think is important. Sugar, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which I just spilled, and then also the raisins. These are looking pretty good. All right. We're going to add in the milk. It's a little bit warm still, so you're just going to add it a little bit at a time so that the eggs don't cook.
Okay, now we're just gonna add 4 cups of flour, a little bit at a time, stirring as you go.
I just realized I forgot to add the butter. First time making anything is always a learning process. Now you're just going to knead it for a minute, just turn it and go like that. Now that's a ball. That was 1 minute of kneading, and then you're going to take the packaging of the butter and grease a bowl, a good sized bowl, one that will allow the dough to double in size. Okay, the directions say to cover it with a warm, damp cloth and put it somewhere warm for an hour and a half. I didn't have a warm cloth. I don't have a cloth, so I'm just going to use cling wrap, and I'm just going to put it near a boiling kettle. Got that rise, all right. I'm preheating the oven to 350. I did 1/2 cup of sugar and 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. And I greased a 9x9 pan. This recipe really calls for, I forget what it even is, pans that are 5 by 9 inches, so it would look like bread, but I don't have those pans, so it's going to be a big loaf of bread, I guess. You're supposed to roll it out into a rectangle, but since I'm putting it into a square pan, I figured I should put it into a square, so that's my square. And then we're going to add a tablespoon of milk on top. Just spread it around with your hands. And then we'll add the cinnamon and sugar mixture evenly. This seems wrong, but I've come this far, so I'm not going to buy pans. So I'm going to pop this into the oven, 350 degrees for, it says 45 minutes. I'll check it after half an hour, because who knows. I just reread the directions, and you actually have to let it rise for another hour, and then you'll cook it. I'm not going to say that I regret making this, because I am looking forward to eating it, but I am still in my pajamas, and I have multiple things that I want to do today, so I would definitely recommend like setting a whole day aside for this recipe. And there we have it, homemade cinnamon raisin bread. Cheers, girls.